Welcome to Rappaport Connect's Alumni Spotlights, where we interview notable Rappaport Foundation alumni. My name is Sean Horrigan, and today we're joined by 2022 Rappaport Institute Public Policy Fellow and the Director of the LGBTQ Policy and Strategic Initiatives Office at the Boston Mayor's Office of LGBTQ Advancement, Kimberly Rhoten. Prior to this role, Kimberly served as the Director of Strategic Policy and Strategic Initiatives at the Boston Mayor's Office of Returning Citizens. Kimberly, thank you for joining us today for Rappaport Connects.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Kimberly, let's get started by discussing your role at the Office of LGBTQ Advancement. What is your role specifically, and what is the mission of the office?
Sure, I'll start with the mission. So the Mayor's Office of LGBTQ Advancement was created in 2022 by Mayor Michelle Wu, who is our current mayor. So we're a very new office as compared to other offices within City Hall. And our current charge, although this might be shifting over the next couple of years, is to recognize, protect, and empower our LGBTQ residents who live in the city. And so that looks like a wide variety of things, including policy reform, other programming and supportive services, especially emergency supportive services for some of our most marginalized residents. And then specifically, my role within that office is looking at policy. And so I mean policy writ large. So I mean upper capital P policy, as in like laws and regulations at the federal, state, and municipal level. But I also mean lower P policy, and that what are our day-to-day operations? How are our procedures actually also impacting LGBTQ residents? And then the second half of my position is sort of the strategic initiatives part, which is looking at everything from grant funding to new relationship building with outside agencies and departments or nonprofits or for-profit companies. And so something that surprises a lot of people is actually the city of Boston offers grants. Many departments offer grants from the city of Boston, and they range in amounts. Our office offers multiple grants per year. And so my sort of charge is making sure that those grants run effectively and efficiently, but also equitably. And so that we're targeting certain communities for more impact.
Wonderful. The LGBT community is obviously very diverse and not a monolith. How do you stay in touch with your various constituencies and the groups who fall under this umbrella?
Yeah, I think that question really applies to all city departments and making sure that we're always beholden and accountable to our citizenry, because that is our due diligence as a public servant. I'm very thankful that I work in an office that we take that very seriously. And what I mean by that is, very recently we actually did a series of community listening sessions all across the city of Boston with a wide range of groups, including our asexual spectrum residents, our intersex identified residents, and also people who identify as two-spirit, in order to make sure that, hey, do you want to be included in our office? Because currently our name doesn't include those groups. Is that something that you want? Do you want to be part of our grant funding priorities? Do you want to be a part of our programming? And so those listening sessions were incredibly useful, and I hope that they were also useful to the constituents who attended them. So those were amazing conversations we got to have directly with Bostonians. And then on top of that, about a month ago, we released a community impact survey to directly ask Bostonians, hey, what do you want from our office? Like, if we only have a limited pot of money, right? And this is always true for government. We have a limited pot of money. How do you actually want us to allocate this? What are the topic areas that you really value that we should be directing our funding to? And so when we set out that survey, I was hoping for maybe 100 folks to fill it out, because we never know what to expect with resident feedback. But I'm really thankful to say we got over 300 responses, which is amazing for a city survey. And we're really excited to put what we found in those survey results into action.
What are some of the things you learned from that survey that you could share with our audience?
Yeah, so I think a couple of surprising things that we didn't expect. So one, residents who filled out our survey did not prioritize Pride Month community events, which is something that our office up until this date had been spending time on. And I would say that June has been historically our busiest month, with our office attending somewhere between 8 to 12 events in that month alone, and most of which we were hosting ourselves. So you can imagine like all of the prep that goes into that, and all of the sort of safety considerations also that goes into that. But that was not a priority for our residents. And so this will definitely be something that impacts our office looking at FY25 and 26 about how to spend our time and how to spend our money. Also, two other things that we suspected but was nice to find out and have concrete data to support this is that our residents really prioritize emergency assistance. And so what I mean by that is emergency financial assistance, emergency logistical bureaucratic assistance, like how can I navigate these complicated government systems like TANF or SNAP or right, all these other sort of social benefit assistant programs. And then also housing. Housing was surprisingly not number one, but number two of a focus area for our residents. And so it's something that our office is really going to be thinking about strategically over the next couple of years of like, how do we make sure that our LGBTQIA2S plus residents are having access to affordable housing within the city, especially at a time where we're seeing skyrocketing rates of housing for the city of Boston in particular, but also Massachusetts writ large.
What are some of the current policy issues that you and your team are working on now?
Yeah. So, as far as actual law and regulations, we're looking at a couple of different things. So, one, I can gently talk about this, but this is not like fully, it has not been voted on. I cannot say that this is going to be moving forward.
Sure.
But something that our office is thinking about is the sustainability of our office, especially at a time where LGBTQ issues are being seen as controversial across the country, that they're being used in national level political debates. We want to make sure that our office is around for the long run to protect our residents. And so, something we're doing actively is actually designing an ordinance to make us permanent so that we will be in the code of the city of Boston if folks vote that way. So, we'll see how that goes. But that's one thing that we're really thinking about.
That's wonderful. I just read the other day that 25% of Gen Z identifies as LGBTQ plus. So I think your office is needed now and will certainly be needed in the future as this population continues to grow. Why do you think this population is growing so much? Is it because people feel more comfortable coming out and being themselves? Or do you have any thoughts around that?
I mean, definitely not a statistician. I'm a lawyer by trade.
Right.
And so I don't want to, speak on an issue that I'm not an expert in. But what I would say
Sure.
as someone who grew up in an area in Orange County, California, where there was only one openly gay student out of 5,000 in that high school, and I am someone who identifies as queer. We were everywhere then and we're everywhere now. And I think that you're really just sort of starting to see people really get the opportunity to align themselves more with words and identities that really speak to them. And so I'm excited to see how that evolves, and I'm excited to see what Gen Z does.
Same here. Do you collaborate with other cities and towns just to see what they're working on and take some of those practices into your office and vice versa? How does that work?
Yeah, so something that's really exciting is that for the last year or so, cities across the country who have LGBTQ offices or equity and inclusion offices that specifically work on LGBTQ issues have been meeting online virtually once a month to talk about what's going on in their city and how can we best support each other. Again, especially since this appears to be an issue that's widely at the national and international conversation level. So let's make sure that we're all supporting each other and thinking about best practices as we move forward. And so that's been a really remarkable resource that I'm very thankful to have seen grow and change. And so we're excited to see where that meeting sort of takes off and where it keeps going into the future. And so what I mean by that is hopefully more cities will join us on that call, but also hopefully we'll start thinking about how can we be most impactful considering that we have so many cities that are working on these issues. How can we, you know, we're stronger together, I guess is what I'm saying. And I'm excited to see where that goes.
What are some of the things that Boston can do better to serve the LGBTQ plus community?
I think I would want to start actually with acknowledging where we're doing a great job, right? Like we're in a state that is a safe haven for LGBTQ people as compared to other states. And in fact, we have laws that protect people who are fleeing their states to come here. And I mean, I really can't be more thankful to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for passing the laws that they have passed to protect our communities. It makes our job as a city much, much easier than say if we were a city in a state that did not have those sorts of protections. The city of Boston, again, being unique in that we're one of probably only about maybe 30 cities across the country who have LGBTQ offices. And so just even the fact that our office exists is already a really considerable step in the right direction because we're there in the rooms where decisions happen, not to like be a Hamilton person, but like we're in the room where it happens. And so we're able to speak up on behalf of our constituency and make sure that their needs and desires are being considered in every decision at every level inside the city of Boston. And so I really do think that there's so much good that's already happening. And because of that firm foundation that we already have, I feel like we're going to be able to move forward in a way that is responsive to ongoing concerns. And so, for instance, something that I'm particularly interested in is that we're seeing a rise of hate crimes in Massachusetts. If you look at the statistics between 2020 and 2022, and I'm hoping to see more recent data soon, but we're seeing rises in hate crime incidents, particularly against folks who are trans or who are suspected to be LGBTQ in some way. And that's something that we're keeping a active pulse on, particularly in the city of Boston, to make sure that people know that we are here to support you and you deserve to be safe.
What's on the horizon, and what are some of the initiatives you hope to address in the future?
Oh, so many things. I think our office has a lot of big, beautiful dreams that, some of them are are practical and some of them maybe aren't. But I think that one thing that's very important to me is making sure that and that is also very important to Mayor Michelle Wu, who's spoken about this before, is that all families in Boston deserve to feel safe, feel love in the city safely and fully. And I think that that is not completely true just yet in the city and also in the state. Thankfully, we've seen some change at the state level. So the Parentage Act was passed this last legislative session, which actually goes a great deal towards recognizing families that were produced through assisted reproductive technology, so like surrogacy and IUIs and IVF, right? And making sure that children born into all families are seen as legally related to their parents and caregivers. And I'm really excited to see that change. And I think you're going to see a lot more changes like that at both the city and the state level over the next couple of years to make sure, again, that families are all protected and recognized in the places we live. The sort of American traditional family model of like this nuclear family of two monogamous, heterosexual, white middle class parents and their biologically related children is just not how family is currently operating in the United States. And there's a lot of data to support that, of showing that a lot of parents, maybe this is their second marriage, or maybe they're not married, or maybe it's a single parent, right? There's a wide variety and diversity of families in the United States. And so I'm excited to see how we grow as a state and as a city to make sure that we're protecting those diverse families as well.
I'm excited to see that as well. Kimberly, tell me about your experience as a Rappaport Fellow. What attracted you to the fellowship program, and what did you take away from it?
Yeah, the Rappaport Fellowship was amazing. It really gave me the opportunity to continue work that I had already been doing previously with the Office of Returning Citizens. And it gave me the opportunity to start thinking about how to grow that office. So at the time, the office was 2.5 people, and they were seeing hundreds of people a year with only 2.5 staff. And like the way that my former colleague and current director of operations for the Office of Returning Citizens likes to say it, is that we were chopping down trees with plastic knives and that they just did not have enough resources. And so Rappaport really gave me the opportunity to spend 10 weeks just looking at the problem of what's going on with this office. How can we strategically build it to make sure that it's actually serving the needs of returning citizens who are coming back to our city. 2.5 people just doesn't cut it. And so very thankful to the fellowship, because it gave me that opportunity to really lay out a report that was eventually handed to the city council to just say, here's the problem, here's how we fix it, here's the number of staff that we would really need to make sure that this work gets done. And I'm very thankful to say that that office is now staffed, I believe, at 9 or 10 people now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, huge.
Now they have regular
Yeah,
knives.
yeah, regular,
Not plastic ones
just
Yeah.
amazing.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic to hear.
Mhm.
Well, Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for your service and all you do for the people of Boston.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me, and I'm here to answer any questions. My email is public, so people can feel free to email me at any time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.